Joining us now is former Admiral and Congressman Joe Sestak, Pennsylvania. Congressman, good to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me, Ed. Good to be back, particularly after Saturday.
Yeah, and I appreciate you joining us last Thursday on short notice on MSNBC. We obviously went to you for your military expertise and your insight on all of this, the horrific turn of events down in Fort Hood on the post there, the Army post there at Fort Hood. And you were clearly shaken by this. This is something that we just couldn't fathom happening on our own soil in our own military.
Right.
Where do we go from here? Counsel us here, Congressman.
Well, I think if anything has to be done, that the investigation, and we should have one, but it has to be one that's done without any theatrics, without any assertions, one that's done deliberately and well. Because if anything has to be restored, it's that military families feel they have safety, integrity where they live. If anything has to be done, it's that. If we begin to whipsaw back and forth on terrorist plots or issues like that, then all we're going to do is harm and make many men and women unnecessarily uneasy. And that's what I think is most important. So do I think there should be an investigation? Yes, but I think we should leave it right now to the military, to the other types of agencies to walk themselves through. And above all else, as I said elsewhere, please, let's not begin to all of a sudden be making inflammatory comments because someone happened to be of a certain religion. That is not what this nation needs, nor does it represent the best of who we are.
That's a tough one. There's going to be a lot of Americans out there who think, gosh, this guy went to a mosque. He went to places where reportedly where the 9/11 hijackers went to. I mean, aren't there background checks in the military to find out what people are doing?
Yes, there are. There are background checks as you go through. But again, I'm a little bit more concerned, to be quite honest with you, that here's an individual who had a relatively poor performance reports. And because our military is so stretched, they moved him into another position as he transferred. Maybe he shouldn't have been kept aboard the Army. That, to me, is a little bit more concerned. Now, do we have background checks? Without a question. Do we interfere overtly, wrongly, against the laws of the land into the private lives of our soldiers? No, nor should we. And so I strongly believe that, again, I honestly believe we don't know what caused this. Just because, like thousands of others, he happened to go to a certain mosque is not and should never begin to be one way of why we begin to go after somebody like that. There are thousands upon thousands of people who go to a church where a murder has probably occurred because of a murderer there. And I think we'd be very careful about this.
Congressman Joe Sestak with us here on the Ed Schultz Show, former Admiral and now on the House Armed Services Committee. Is there anything you want to see changed in when it comes to background checks or anything like that?
Well, there is.
I mean, this guy, and I guess the way I ask that, let me tell you why I'm asking it that way.
Please.
Is that, this guy was bad-mouthing the mission. This guy was visibly going around telling people that, he didn't believe in Afghanistan. He didn't believe, and it was almost anti-military in some circles, described by some. At least that's the reporting that's out there. Is it too much to ask that the American taxpayer wants to make sure that those in the military are truly dedicated to what they're called to do?
I think, can you hear me fine?
I can. Yes.
Hello, Ed?
Yes.
Ed, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. I can hear you.
Hello, Ed? I'm sorry, I'm not sure you can hear me. Let me answer this if you can. Let me just call right back. I'm sorry.
Okay. Am I on the air? We need some. Okay, all right. Well, for some reason, he couldn't hear what I was saying. We're going to try to reconnect with Congressman Joe Sestak. Gosh, you end up asking questions that you cringe at sometimes for conversation. And how does the military prevent something like that happening? Should they take notice of someone who is going around the post? Bad-mouthing being where he is, what he's doing, how he's doing it, and such stuff as that? I mean, are there checks and balances in all of this? We'll see. Okay, Congressman, you back with us?
Sure, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened on this landline here, but let me speak to that. There's two things I want to bring up. And Ed, I know you're going to agree with me on the very first one. There are limits here. For example, when I'd command my aircraft carrier battle group, and I was in the Indian Ocean, we were doing retaliatory strikes into Afghanistan, we were told to take my battle group into the Persian Gulf for what we thought might be a starting run to the Iraq War. I prepared my men and women. We pulled in, and I remember the fleet commander said to me, Joe, privately, what do you think about this? And I said, my men are ready to go, sir. That's my mission. But he said, no, what do you personally think about this? I said, this was a tragic misadventure. It's just like I said on the campaign trail. I gave my honest opinion. I didn't consider that anti-military, anti-U.S. He asked my personal opinion, but I was ready to do my mission. But if it does cross the line where he's beginning to say, as it reportedly has been done, that there was a link out there where he had typed in this suicide bombers against our military or martyrs or things worse to that effect, then we should have properly, if it was linked to him, pursued that. But again, I want to make sure this is clear. I honestly do believe that this is a rogue issue that has occurred. And we have to be able to remember that these are private citizens. But at the same time, if there was something that should have been followed up on, we should have been very careful. What I don't want to do is go over the line here to where all of a sudden those of a certain faith are, quite frankly, a little less able to have their civil rights not trampled upon.
Well, there were reports out there that there was a lot of harassment because of his faith. There was a lot of harassment on the post, on the base, in his career. And does the military monitor that? I mean, how is that handled in disciplinary circles?
That's handled by good order and discipline. It's handled by a very good commanding officer. Look, there is at times racial epithets that are used. There are sexual comments that are made. I can remember on an aircraft carrier, a woman had been out there in combat, flying over Afghanistan, had come back, landed. It was like 2 a.m. in the morning, walking through the carrier, and someone groped her and made some comment and ran. We got the crew together so we could find the individual and point him out. We correct that by good order and discipline. Those comments should have been reported and handled with discipline. That they weren't, it's unacceptable. Are there stuff done? Yeah, people are human. We don't make them perfect all of a sudden in the military. But it's just like having gays in the military. How strongly believe, don't ask, don't tell has to be repealed. Good command climate makes for good order and discipline. We don't know how this individual's mind was affected by seeing those who had post-traumatic stress disorder in front of them every day. That, to me, again, Ed, is where I'm most concerned. I'm going to visit a prison, for example, trying to on Wednesday. Why? Because we have so many individuals who are imprisoned because they have substance abuse, and we've never helped them early on with a post-traumatic stress disorder, and they end up committing a crime in order to feed their habits that we might have prevented. The key here is, how do we find out at the source of the problem of something like a mental anguish that we can stop a problem?
It's pretty complicated stuff, and it's really complicated stuff. And you hope that this is an isolated incident, but you also have to wonder, is this part of an infiltration effort?
Yeah, but again, Ed, I'll come back that should we have a thorough investigation? Absolutely. But from the little bit I've been able to garner from someone who's a little involved in there is there's initial reactions don't appear to be one where there's this, one might think this was a conscious terrorist thing. But that's why I say up front, before assertions or people are too much gesturing what might have occurred, we just have a deliberate, safe review. Even before Congress jumps in, I'd like to see what they find out and then proceed from there, Ed.
Congressman, great to have you with us.
You got it. And please, it's not that I don't condemn his act. It's just that let's do this right. Thank you.
Joe Sestak with us here on the Ed Schultz Show. Congressman from Pennsylvania, retired 3-star admiral. Great to have him with us.